Let me ask you a question. Are you losing the distance war? Well, tonight we're unlocking the internal power of a martial arts master and the physical engine of a golf fitness expert to find those lost yards. Plus, why 99% of you are aiming your putts at the wrong target. Stick around. Golf Talk Live starts right now.
The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and tonight we're tackling the number one obsession in golf, and that's distance. First, we hit the Coach's Corner with the golf sensei, Jamie Leno-Zimron. Then fitness expert Bob Foreman joins us to reveal the biological breaks killing your swing speed and how to fix them. And then finally, we're talking precision with Vikash Sanyal, managing director at Chamber Putter. He's here to discuss how his new laser-aligned chamber putters are changing the game for Hall of Famers and amateurs alike. So it's all about power, fitness, and the flat stick tonight. So let's get started and head over to Coach's Corner with Jamie. Let me just tell you a little bit about Jamie. She's an LPGA professional and 6th-degree black belt in Aikido. She is the pioneer of Ki Golf, known as the Golf Sensei, and she blends martial arts internal power with professional golf instruction. She also specializes in teaching golfers how to use body alignment, focused energy, and the zone to play more powerfully and mindfully. So, Jamie, welcome back to Coach's Corner.
Thanks, Ted. This will be fun.
So I thought we would talk about, because, again, and I'm going to be doing this with my next guest a little bit, talking about power, because everybody's wanting more distance. You know, it's probably one of the number one things that we hear with a lot of golfers, especially our amateur golfers. How do I get more distance? How do I get more power? So, but in your case, we're going to talk about the internal power of the swing. And because of your extensive background, particularly in martial arts, I thought, well, let's talk about the martial arts parallel. So you're known as the Golf Sensei in Aikido, and power doesn't come from trying hard or muscling through a movement. It comes from alignment and flow. So how does that philosophy change the way a golfer should think about gaining distance?
It's funny you said think about. I was just with our Golf It Forward Foundation that I co-founded. It's a nonprofit, and we've been raising money as a part of the legacy of the 13 LPGA founders, and in particular Marilyn Smith and Shirley Spork. And part of the honorees this year was Meg Mallon and Beth Daniel, who were both LPGA Hall of Famers. And they were quite close with Louise Suggs, who was one of the 13 founders. Louise was a small woman, and she was the main competition, actually, for the Babe Zahara Didrikson. And she wrote a book in 1953 called Power Golf for Women. It's actually good for everybody. I found an antique copy of it in Pebble Beach like 20 years ago. And there's a few lines in there that are getting to what I want to say. One thing she said is, there should be no thought of murdering the ball when you get back to it. So you take the club away, there should be no thought of murdering the ball. I always tell my students, crime don't pay. Killing it doesn't pay. And we tend to kill it or murder it because we don't have enough connection to our internal power. People don't understand power nearly well enough. I think the common image or idea is that it's all about muscles, big biceps, strong arms, and then gritted teeth, harder you try, that whole thing. That is what power consists of. That's what it looks like. That's what we got to do to have power. And it's really tough for golfers because we're not in motion like a tennis player, a basketball player, because we're just standing there, we're just like, oh God, what do I do? And if you don't have a sense that there is power inside, that there's power in alignment, in breath, in this life energy that we are, the mind is powerful. That's mental energy. Our emotions are powerful. We can call that emotional energy. Think how strong passion is. What is passion? You can't hold it. You can't
Right.
flex it. You can't lift it. But boy, how powerful is passion? Moves mountains.
Right.
Yeah. So when we have that focus to our goal, when we're full of passion for what we're doing, um, there's just an energy there. That energy is powerful, and that energy actually comes from inside of us. It's a gift, and in fact, we call that ki chi in other languages, kundalini. We don't in English have a word for it, but that's this internal energy. And it's what leaves the body when we die, right? All of a sudden it's not there. So it's this animating life force. If we can get connected to that energy inside, first of all, by going, oh, it's real, it's not some woo-woo
Right.
New Age California thing. I've kind of noticed there's energy everywhere
Right.
I've been, and I go all over the planet, yeah, all over the world. So we all have this energy, and it moves through our breath, it moves through our body when we move in a properly sequenced way from the lower to the upper body, our big muscles, our base, our foundation, and then the upper body in connection has a relaxed flow to it. It's amazing the power that we have. But we have to get connected to it, and we have to go. So when you're standing over the golf ball, instead of just going like, what do I do? You start to learn what to do. For me, it's settle into my belly, which settles me into my feet. Now, I can feel that. Breathe. It's usually a waggle, 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 exhale. Now I'm going to be ready to inhale. That inhale is going to bring the club back. That exhale is going to release and let it go. Meanwhile, if you turn from the left foot, left instep, Jack Nicklaus talked about playing golf from the arches of your feet. So if we organize ourselves with weight on our insteps a little bit, and we pull the knees in, get organized and centered around the club, feel the feet, that heavy feeling in the belly, presence in the legs, pushing that left instep will turn the back hip, the whole shoulders turn, pushing the right instep, which is what a quarterback does, a baseball hitter, a baseball pitcher, a tennis player. It all keys off that. I call it the secret of the back instep and knee. So when that's what we do, we want to turn and load into that back leg, then unload from the right instep and knee. That's also going to turn the left hip. We're going to clear the line. We're going to release. So these, giving some ideas of like, where does power come from? But we have to know, and we have to be present in our feet. And if you start keying into the insteps of your feet, which Jack Nicklaus, who has the best, greatest golfer of all time, Tiger, whatever. I've seen Tiger pictures, same thing, would tell you, lower body. Then you can push off ground force. But golf is played between the arches of your feet. Jack Nicklaus has the best statistics, combined statistics of distance and accuracy of any player, even now. So those stats, accuracy and distance, that doesn't really depend on the equipment and stuff, or the era, but just the percentages of that. So getting down in the feet and, working through the body in a properly sequenced way, rather than standing there in actually kind of a like freaked out state and going, what do I do now? And the only thing we know how to do is go, let's lift.
Right.
Lift our arms. And we've not engaged the power, the full power of the body, all the way up from the feet and the ground. We just lift, and then we try to murder it with our arms because we aren't connected down there, and with the right sequence and our full body, and because we have this idea of rawr, kill it with the arms. So this is in a sense bad news, what a lot of golfers do, but it's great news. Because there's such a big realm, and it's right obvious before us of what golfers can do to take a big leap in improvement once they get aware of this. and start to key into the real elements of power. So I hope that helps. Is a kind of like groundwork here, but there's so much room for improvement because this stuff isn't addressed enough. And once
Yeah.
people get connected to their inner power and how that moves through their body, the outer power, whew, you're like, wow, I'm in a new world. I didn't understand this before.
Yeah. Everybody, as you said, tries to muscle their swing and tries to, as you said, murder the golf ball. And it's really, and this again, sort of the effort factors we're going to talk about. Most amateurs believe that distance is a result of swinging harder to go further. So from a Ki golf perspective, why is trying harder actually the biggest obstacle to hitting the ball a long way? And you really touched on a lot of it right there in your explanation, but maybe just give us a little bit of an extra nugget here, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, when you think about trying harder, the first thing that comes up is tension, right? I'm going to try hard. And so we tense up and like this. Tension tends to kill power, okay? It's kind of like you take a hose, right? Let's say that my arm is, a hose, and if I kink it up, and that's what happens with tension is a lot of kink up, and there's tension here and tension all over, the flow isn't there. You have to get the kinks out, yeah, and allow the flow to happen. So, it's the tension that really is the problem when people are trying so hard. It also means that they're probably going to be very mean to themselves. They're going to beat themselves up. Oh, you suck. Oh, you're no good. Oh, right.
Yeah.
And, also from sort of a Ki point of view, it's that paradoxical thing of, try harder, worse results. It's like counterintuitive. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't try. Of course we try. Organize yourself properly, eat healthy, move in the proper sequence, and, have the right equipment, all these things. Of course I'm trying, but I'm trying without the tension of efforting. It's that hard thing. Hard just really doesn't work so well. So, yeah. The other thing is when people are trying hard, they're very much in their head. They're like, I got to do this. This is going to happen. I'm going to do it. And all of that is just mental noise and mental chatter. The mind is best used by thinking of the mind as awareness. When you can place your mind, place your awareness into your body, into your center, into your belly, get into your hips, legs, feet. Can feel the ground. Put my hands on the club. I can feel the club in my hand. I can feel the flow of energy through my grip down the shaft of the club. I can kind of feel it connecting it to the face of the club. Oh, I can feel things. So when you use your mind to focus on what matters in every shot, which is your presence in your body, organization in your body, sequence of movement in your body, now that's going to work, okay? But just trying hard is going to toss all of us into tension and effort, that killing it effort, which just doesn't work. That's really not where a true power lies.
Yeah, and it results in overthinking the process as well.
Exactly.
As you said, too many.
In your head. Yeah.
I want to, because you touched on this a little bit earlier, but I want to focus on sort of the centeredness. You often teach about centered contact. So even if a golfer, let's say, has a high swing speed, how does a lack of internal balance and being centered lead to energy leaks that certainly can kill their distance control?
Thank you for that question. I just at our pro-am the other day, this came up, and I love to talk about centeredness. So here's the thing: we'll call this the face of the golf club, and right here, sweet spot. Yeah, sweet spot is centered contact. Now, the sweet spot is actually an engineered area on the face of the club between two vibrational nodes, and when those vibrational nodes, they can have a different distance to the ground. They can, depends on the materials, how much is in the back of the iron of the club, or all these factors. I mean, what's golf R&D? They're playing around with all these things, right?
Right.
All right. So given all those things, then you create these two vibrational nodes. When the ball is struck right in that spot that's been engineered, there's a harmonic. Ping.
Yep.
This is what Karsten Solheim, when he first in the 60s was looking to solve his putting woes, and he was looking to create this perfect putter. And he came running into the house one day from his garage where he was tinkering, and he told his wife and his kids, he went, I got it. It's like a tuning fork.
Yeah.
Ding! And Ping is just a great name for a golf company. Ping! And that's when we hit the sweet spot. Okay, so centered contact, extremely important. Now, here's a theory of better golf you may not have heard, and your listeners may not have heard. Most golfers make centered contact on a random basis.
Sure.
True?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, on a random basis. So there's two problems with that. One, you never know what's going to happen, the inconsistency, and it leads to lack of confidence. And the other is, it's like, sometimes yes, sometimes no, give me two more, let me try. I mean, it's like, you don't know what's going to come out.
Yeah.
So it's very important that we make centered contact. If we could up our percentages of centered contact from random to a consistent 30%, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80%. We're not going to bat 1,000, but we're going to bat a lot better than the MVPs in the baseball leagues. If they get it to 0.3, 0.4 something, I don't know if that's even happened. 4 out of 10, they're going to hit 3 something out of 10. We can get our percentages of centered contact way up there in the 70s, 80s, maybe even more. Not 100%, but it also means that when you miss the center, you're going to miss by less. Maybe you'll hit it here, not all the way off the hosel, or not all the way off the toe, or shank it, or something like that. You'll be in the first cut of rough. You're not going to be in the woods or out of bounds. So centered contact's really important. Now, how do we get consistent centered contact? Obviously, that's the next question. So my proposition is very simple. Centered plus centered equals centered.
Right.
What does that mean? If I'm centered in my body, in my belly, in my legs, I have balance in my feet, okay? I'm centered. When I turn, I'm still centered. My weight's over my right side, but it's centered over my right side. I come back to impact right in the middle. I move my weight over to the left side, finish up, but I'm centered. Now, what wrecks that? Lift, sway. Yeah? So when people sway and lift, they just destroyed their centeredness. If they're centered, they move in a centered way, sequential way, yeah? As opposed to lift, pound, lift up on the other side of the ball. So this can come from lack of flexibility. It can come from lack of strength, particularly in the lower body, in the hips, the glutes, hip flexors, quads, even ankles. You can strengthen your ankles, your calves, all that can get stronger. So when we have muscular strength and flexibility, and we know what it is when we practice, which I've gotten from martial arts and teach in golf, how to get centered in your belly, get that even in both your legs and your feet, and then move in a centered way so that even when your weight's on one side, I'm centered over that side, I'm centered over this side, right? Posting up at the end of your swing on your left leg if you're a righty, right leg if you're a lefty, but, in balance, not falling off. Or how many people try to kill it, then it makes them rebound, and they fall off backwards, and they're standing there going like, what happened? How come I missed it? Or how come that didn't go anywhere? Or how come that went off over there? There's no mystery. It's obvious. It's not a how come. It's like, well, guess what? You weren't centered or balanced.
No.
Another way to think about it is this, that I like to say, is the golf swing, not putting, but the swing is a circular motion. And so it's like it has an orbit. The swing has an orbit to it, a circle to it. Now, we need a stable centered in there. So it's like the sun in the middle of the solar system. If the sun wasn't steady in the center, we wouldn't, all the planets would be going all over the place. When we were little kids in grade school, in math class, we had, remember those old-fashioned compasses? Had a little needle and a pencil out here. Boy, you worked hard to keep that needle steady so you could draw around and make a nice circle. I don't know if kids know that today, but most of us older folks remember that, right? And so it's that stable center that allows for a steady orbit. And the stable center begins in our own belly and legs and feet. That's our, and us being we are the stable center. The golfer, needs to be stable in the middle. So when you lift, when you sway, when you pound, when you murder and kill it, when you rebound backwards, when you just lose your balance because you didn't have enough strength or presence in your lower body or in your hip flexors, even the abs help with stability. So this is where fitness comes in. Mm-hmm. And when we can follow that equation, centered plus centered. I'm centered, I make a centered swing, I make centered contact, ball goes down the middle of the fairway. It sounds good. You hit the sweet spot. And It sounds good, it feels good, it looks good, it scores well. The ball does what we want it to do.
Yeah. And if you're centered in balance excuse me, as you talk about, then you learn to swing within yourself. When you talk about people trying to murder or kill the ball, what often you see them is because they're trying to force that swing speed unnaturally, they ultimately end up losing balance. And that's why, as you said, I'm not going to do it because I'll move off my mic, but you'll get all over the place. And so a lot of golfers struggle with that because they're trying to force that swing speed. And really, in order to make center contact, it's really sequential. The golf swing runs in a certain sequence. And if you're out of sequence, it's very easy to fall back or to lean forward or what have you, or come out of posture or sway one way or the other excessively. And there is a certain amount of motion, obviously, that goes on in a golf swing, but it's sequential. And, you see time after time, a lot of golfers get out of sequence. And it's mainly not because their body can't move in that position more often not, it's because they're trying to force the swing as opposed to letting it happen and flow naturally. So when they do that, they're obviously either swinging too hard and they can't maintain that balance. So it throws them all over the place. I want to move on because we got, we're going to end up getting out of time here. So I want to make sure that I get a chance to get everything in. You talk about the zone as a distance tool. So as I said before, you specialize in helping golfers reach the zone. Is there a specific mental or energetic state that allows the body to release the club faster and more freely than a stressed or overly technical mind?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the zone, we talk about the zone like it's kind of out there, right? And it happens to us like, oh, I got in the zone. And we don't know how we got there. And it was our horoscope, maybe, who knows, or like, oh, I had it for like 3 holes and then I don't know where the heck it went. So, the zone's a great thing. It's just not great when it's out there and we have no input into it, seemingly no input. And like grace of who knows what just came over us and wow, I got the zone. But my proposition is this, and this is part of my training and my peak performance trainings and all, is that we have an inner zone. Our inner zone is that centeredness, literally in our belly. My students always go, body parts, please. And I'm like, okay, your belly, your belly, your hips, your thighs, your legs, your knees and legs, that is where the zone starts, is in a solid, comfortable, centered, organized, balanced foundation. Sequencing, okay? Moving in a proper sequence, that's part of being in the zone, okay? Having, okay, so when we're in our inner zone is not tense, tight, gripping the club too tight, choking it, your brain going and your mind saying, oh God, look at all those bunkers out there. Uh-oh. Oh man, somebody just put that $50 bill on this shot. I can't do it. Or, oh man, I just 3-putted that last hole and I had 2 pelly strokes earlier. How am I ever gonna? So now I really got to get 3 pars to finish. And it's just like, that's all stress. Okay, so stress is not the zone, and we're actually in our sympathetic, triggered, palm sweating, heart beating nervous system. When we go into our belly and our legs and we get calm and we organize around center, as simple as clapping your hands. Oh, I'm centered now, okay? I talk about let the snow settle like the snow in a snow globe. It's all shook up. That's you all shook up and agitated and afraid or angry. Let the snow settle. gravity. Oh, I'm calm. Now I'm in my parasympathetic nervous system. That's where we have a clear mind. That's when we're in the zone. So we can bring ourselves, part of the training is how do you bring yourself into your inner zone?
Right.
We have all the input in the world into our inner zone, and it starts with noticing that we're not in it. Ah, we're freaked, we're scared, we're mad, or whatever, or we just don't know what to do. But so we practice that, and once I'm in my inner zone, I'm halfway to the zone,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And then good things start to happen. The whole full zone happens a lot more because we are in our inner zone, and we notice when we've left it, we know how to come back. He or she who knows how to come back, and that's the one who has the control on the golf course, or that's the quarterback in the 2-minute drill and the team that can go down the field and keep it together and score when they need to. In that kind of pressure, being able to stay centered, keep your wits about you, and be able to function, stay focused on what's happening, not with, oh my God, we're going to lose in 2 minutes. That's not what you think about. So you're in charge of where you put your mind. When you put your mind into your belly and your legs and your swing and the swing that you need to make, the shot that you're looking at, the target, or what you got to accomplish right now, that's where your mind serves you really well. And then the body can function well. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, being in your parasympathetic nervous system calms the emotions. It puts us less at the effect of our emotions. And that's very important because our emotional intelligence can either sink and it will kill us, or what I say, we can rise to lower scores. We
Yeah.
have to bring ourselves back up, and then our scores go down. Most of us fall. We're in,
Yeah.
a bad place
Well,
mentally and emotionally, and then our scores go up.
yeah. A lot of people bring, their emotional baggage, as you pointed out, with past holes or even past rounds, and they bring it in and they start thinking about, instead of focusing on the shot at hand, they're thinking about something that happened in the past they can't change any longer. Certainly, there's an opportunity earlier on to learn from those mistakes, but you don't bring it to the next shot. You leave it behind you and you deal with it another time. I want to get in this real quick as we get ready to wrap up, and I get ready for my next guest, who is a certified golf fitness. So we're going to get into the physical side with him a little bit more in detail. So the physical engine, if you will, of the golfer. What is one sensei tip you have for listeners to help them stay loose and mindful so they can actually use the strength they build when they go in the gym?
Well, interestingly, uh, so I have a golf fitness program myself. I call it "Make Your Golf Club Your Health Club." It's called Golf Bliss. I had a teacher who created Bliss work and adapted it to golf. So Bliss, it means B is balance.
Mm-hmm.
L is lengthen. Lengthen is lengthening your muscles. It's lengthening your range of motion, which ultimately lengthens your swing arc. A longer swing arc is going to create more distance. That's why a driver or the longer clubs, the distance clubs, have a longer shaft, because with a longer swing arc, that's what also helps to create distance.
Mm-hmm.
Short clubs, wedges, are shorter because we're not trying to get maximum distance out of them. But so balance, length and integrate your left and right sides, your lower and upper body, your mind and your body, your inner body. We've been talking about this inner power and energetic power with the outer. So integrate, stretch, flexibility, that's part of range, and strengthen. And it's important to strengthen the erector spinae muscles. Those are the ones that hold you up. Our lats here and our hip flexors, our lower body muscles. So all of that, goes into it. Fitness, make your golf club your health club. I think it's important that people do fitness and that it relates to the golf swing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great to go into the gym. A lot of times people don't realize how what they're doing in the gym is going to relate to their golf swing.
Right. They're not all fitness specific.
They're not necessarily specific enough. Or, okay, I got strong, but what am I going to do with this new strength in my legs?
Mm-hmm.
How do I use my legs? You got to learn how you use your feet and legs in the golf swing and in sequence. So, whatever work they do in the gym, it has to get directly related to the swing. My golf fitness uses your golf club. And what's really nice about that is it's legal. So that if you're in the middle of a round and you're just asking about how do I get loose, how do I stay loose, how do I stay focused, every fitness exercises that I do uses your golf club, and we get centered and we're focused on the pin or down the fairway. So you're really practicing that target focus, that line focus, even just getting organized to do an exercise. Then we do all these different exercises and they work on your extensions and your strength and stability, the back muscles, so that you can hold you up and you can rotate around your spinal axis well because you've got those muscles. Balance, you can't actually talk yourself into balance. You need some balance muscles.
Yep.
Yeah. You can't talk yourself into sequence. You have to know what is sequence. And honestly, just about every athletic movement, and I run my students through throwing a ball or a basketball or a bowling, whatever, and it's like pretty much all the same. You use your feet first, and then you push off your back foot, and then that energizes and empowers the arm and hand, and then you need some relaxation. You look at these giant basketball players; they go down, down, down. Energy comes up, and then they go, whew. Their hands are loose. They're not tight. You can't, and if you try to throw a ball without any body in it, just like this, no, you got to have a body. Again, we're standing still, but we need to learn how to follow normal athletic motion. Golfers cannot defy natural law, but they try to. But that's because we're standing still. It makes it hard. I mean, I have a lot of empathy for us. It's a little different standing still, and that's why it seems so difficult. But within that, we can generate. And what's so interesting, Ted, is that we're standing perfectly still. The club's going 0 miles per hour. It takes roughly from address, top of the swing, back to impact. We're going to call it a second, okay? It could be a little tiny bit more or less. That's not very long. 1 second from 0 miles an hour, that club head can be going 100, 140, 160, 80 miles an hour faster than cars on a freeway. And all of that got generated from within our body by turning correctly, breathing correctly, exhaling and releasing correctly. That's unbelievable. So, and I say that so that people realize how much power is here right inside their own body, mind, emotion system. And when they learn to be a black belt more, be more masterful in their command of what they're doing in their body and with their energy, it can generate enormous club head speed, enormous power in a second. It's really incredible, isn't it? You can't even, I don't think you can accelerate a car that fast.
No, and it goes to really what we've talked about many times over the years in Coach's Corner is, you can have all the power that you want, but if you don't know how to release it correctly, it doesn't mean anything. It's for naught. And this is where a lot of amateurs get in, is they think that power means that, as you've said many times tonight, you've got to sort of murder and kill the ball. And that's not really. It's a matter of performing the sequence that's needed and letting it flow in a natural and harmonious way. And a lot of golfers struggle with that because, again, they're not centered, they're not balanced within themselves. So, you've laid it out very, very well tonight in our discussion.
I just wanted to say, going back to the beginning of Louise Suggs and her book,
right.
Ben Hogan wrote the foreword for that book.
Right.
And he considered her swing to be one of the best. He said her swing is so smooth, so soundly joined together. She was bound to be a winner. Right. Nobody is as long off the tee and as straight down the middle. Those are his words. I have memorized about Louise Suggs. And again, she was a physically small person, but a great winner. Yeah. And she had sequence. She had it all going on. Yeah. In a beautiful way. And boy, the results were there. We just don't know. We in the West don't understand this kind of power. The founder of the martial art I do, Morihei Ueshiba O-sensei, he said a lot of cool things. One thing he said was, rely on peace to activate your manifold powers. Rely on peace, not on muscles and brute force and killing it. And what's peace? Peace in Hebrew, shalom, people have heard that word, comes from the root letters. Shalem, it means wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're whole, when we're not in pieces and fragments and disconnected, when everything's in proper order and moves in sequence, there's a wholeness. Rely on the wholeness, which will produce peace, peaceful power. And peaceful power and relaxed power is incredibly powerful. In golf, we really see the difference between that kind of peaceful, sequenced power and flow, breath power compared to brute force, kill it power.
Yeah, well said. Well, Jamie, I want to thank you very much for joining me tonight on the Coach's Corner panel. It's been fun, and it's always interesting to hear your perspectives from a martial arts, as you will, addition to regular golf instruction. So I appreciate that. If you wouldn't mind, just take a quick moment if you want to let the listeners know how they can reach out, or if they want to visit your website to learn more, where they can go to get that information.
Well, thank you, Ted. It's been fun, and I appreciate you giving space for the kind of approach that I've really been bringing into golf. And it's not weird in any way. It's like
Right.
most people say, "Wow, that makes so much sense. Why didn't I hear about that sooner?" People can reach me through my website, which is thecenteredway.com, JAMIE at The Centered Way. Send me an email. You can send me a text on WhatsApp or regular messages, +1 760 492 4653. Send a text, leave me a message. I always say I like to talk, yeah, but I love to connect with people. You can find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Jamie Leno Zimran, and just get in touch, and happy to connect with folks.
Hi, I'm Karen Jansen, LPGA Master Teaching Professional and National Academy of Sports Medicine Certified Personal Trainer, and I'm very excited to share with you my Cardio Golf online subscription. Professional golfers know the importance of athletic development for golf. As a recreational golfer, you might not have the time to train like an elite athlete, but by simply adding a few golf-specific exercises and swing drills into your daily routine, you can dramatically improve your game, and you can do it at home with Cardio Golf. I have various pieces of equipment to help you train indoors, away from the golf course, like the Cardio Golf Shorty Club. This club is short so that you can swing inside, you're not going to hit the ceilings or the walls. The Cardio Golf Slope. This is great to simulate an uphill and a downhill lie. You know, the ones that you get on the golf course, but there's nowhere ever to practice. We also use this as a fitness step. I also have various pieces of equipment from Golf Gym, like the Powerball and the Power Bands, to help you improve your strength and flexibility. Join me every week as I take you through workouts that are going to help you shape your swing and trim your score. Start a free trial today. Go to cardiogolf.com.
And she will call you back, by the way. I can vouch for that. So again, thank you very much, Jamie, for joining me tonight on Coach's Corner. It's been a lot of fun, as always. All right, we're just getting started here on Golf Talk Live. Stick around. We have plenty more expert advice coming your way right after this short break from our sponsors. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. I'm excited to have my next guest. Of course, once again, Bob Foreman, our fitness expert, is joining me on the show. He's a highly respected exercise physiologist, a certified golf fitness instructor, and the founder of Golf Fit Carolina. With decades of experience, Bob specializes in identifying the specific physical limitations that lead to common swing flaws like coming over the top or early extension, just to name a few. And by focusing on mobility, stability, and functional strength, he empowers golfers of all ages and all abilities to unlock their power and increase their longevity. So help me welcome back my good friend, Bob Foreman, certified golf fitness instructor. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me again.
I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. So I had it timed out. It worked out really well because the earlier segment we were talking about distance from the mind or mental side of the game. My instructor that was with me on Coach's Corner is a martial arts expert. So she was talking from how I'm being centered and things like that. And I thought this will work in and bode well for our discussion on distance. We're going to talk more of the physical side of things in our discussion. So I want to start things right off. So the biological break, as I call it, why is distance the number one request you get from golfers, and what is the primary physiological reason we choose those yards as we age?
Well, it's certainly coveted, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to have a few more yards down the fairway? That's for sure. Yeah, distance is number one, and from a physical perspective, a lot of people lose distance as they get older because, I mean, their bodies get tighter, their bodies get weaker. They don't work at maintaining range of motion and strength in particular muscle groups. So yeah, there's several variables, several factors there that contribute to the fact that we lose distance as we do get older. I mean, one of the key factors is, we've talked about this before, is sarcopenia, the inevitable loss of muscle tissue as we do get older. And unfortunately, most of that muscle loss is in the form of the fast twitch muscle fibers, which are responsible for short, quick bursts of energy, swinging a golf club at 1.2, 1.5 seconds. So, it's something you can't prevent entirely, but you can slow the process down. You can get some of that muscle tissue back by getting into the gym and, working with weights, doing some strength training. Building a base of strength if you haven't been doing any strength training. And then once you've kind of developed that base after a few months, you want to get into exercises that will help you recruit what you have left as far as those fast twitch muscle fibers. And those are more type power, type speed exercises. So there's a physiological reason for the forward tees, and that's sarcopenia. But again, if you work at it, you don't necessarily have to jump to those tees right away.
Yeah, well said. And I want to talk about posture as a power killer, or more importantly, poor posture can be a power killer. And you've often discussed how, rounding shoulders, we know a lot of the cause of that, sitting at a computer desk and that quite often, and or C posture at a dress act like a speed break, if you will. So how does poor posture physically prevent the golfer from reaching their max club head speed? So what does it do? Why does, who cares if our shoulders are a little bit rounded or we're slumped over a little bit? How is that hampering our speed and ability to generate more club head speed and get more distance?
Yeah, we've hyped on that quite a bit in the past. I mean,
we're going to hype on it some more tonight, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, C posture is an epidemic, in golf. And because of computers and cell phones and working over a desk, the body adapts to the position that it's placed in most of the time. And most of us, a lot of us, are in that hunched shoulder, rounded shoulder posture. So over time, the body adapts to that. And what I mean by that is that when you are bent over like that, you shorten those muscles across the front part of the chest, and then you also elongate the muscles in the upper back. So when you shorten a muscle over time, you tighten it, and when you elongate a muscle over time, you weaken it. Right. So gravity will just keep pulling you forward. Now, rounded shoulders will limit your ability to bring the club head back, and that backswing that a lot of the journals talk about, that good shoulder turn. And if you limit the distance that the club head is going to travel in the backswing, you're going to limit the distance it's going to travel in the downswing. Just makes sense. And therefore, you might not be able to develop as much club head speed. So there's another reason why, again, you may lose some of that distance, based on, like you say, how you address the ball. And it's a relatively easy fix, but first you have to kind of realize that you're in this C posture. And the one way you can do that is to have someone take a picture of you at a dress over the ball, or a video, from behind you looking down the fairway, to see, how your alignment is. And if you are kind of hunched over, making a C shape out of your spine, that's a C posture. And again, that's probably going to limit your ability to get the club back. The only way you're going to be able to get the club back is if you stand up in the backswing, and then now you're talking about dynamic posture and changing your swing plane, and that'll mess you up too. So You definitely want to have someone take a look at your posture at address, golf professional, golf fitness professional, or your buddies, just get the cell phones out and snap a picture. And if you are in that C posture, you need to address that.
Yeah. Picture's worth 1,000 words, they always say.
Yes.
It can hamper a lot of golf swings as well if it's not a good posture. And, we've talked about before in golf, especially in instruction, is if, everything begins with a good setup. And if your setup is flawed from day one, then you're not going to be able to create the movements that you need to make an effective swing. So let's talk about strength versus speed. Many golfers buy high-speed training aids to get faster, but you advocate for building a strength base first. So why is jumping straight into speed training potentially dangerous or ineffective without that foundation first?
Well, speed exercises, it's speed. It's a quick movement. And if you don't develop that base of strength, the injury potential can just go up. So it's highly recommended that you first work on the physical deficiencies that you may discover during a golf fitness assessment. At the same time, start to incorporate a base of strength training or modify what you're currently doing to adapt to more of a golf specific strength program. And once again, after you develop that base and working with a golf fitness professional or a personal trainer, they can have, they'll have a good idea as to when you're ready to progress to those speed type / power exercises. But if you jump into those right away, because it's explosive movement, it's power movement, it's tossing a weighted medicine ball against the wall or or throwing it to your trainer. It's jumping onto a box and off a box. So it is explosive in nature, and it does increase the risk of injury. So you want that strength base there to reduce that potential.
Well said. And you consider the lower body to be sort of the engine, if you will. So you consider the legs and the hips to be sort of the engine of the swing. And what is a simple exercise that you could give golfers that they could do at home to sort of help wake up those fast twitch fibers, those fast twitch muscles?
Yeah, there's a lot out there now on the internet from TPI about ground reaction forces. You pressing down against the ground and the ground kind of pressing up back at you. In the golf swing, as you go into your downswing, you're kind of pressing off that trail leg, that right foot for a right-handed golfer, as you initiate that golf swing. And there's a kind of a little sit-down move that they do. And then what's going to happen is you're going to kind of rise up a little bit by pushing off the front foot. So they found that, like with these long drive guys, that hit the ball a ton, that their vertical leap is phenomenal. I think they're like in the 30-inch vertical leap category, where I tested mine. Embarrassed to say this, but I tested mine a few months ago, and my vertical leap was 8 inches. Yeah, and so as you get older, obviously
mine might be.
Yeah. And the way you can test it is you take a piece of tape, you stand against the wall, and you reach up and put the tape on the wall, right? Then take another piece of tape and do a jump, all right? And as you jump, you want to slap that tape against the wall and measure the distance between the two pieces of tape. And, again, mine was 8 inches. These long distance guys are 30 plus inches. So you need that power in the legs to create that ground reaction force that will give you that, that good power into your swing. And building the strength in the quads and the glutes is an important part of that. And a lot of us are weak in those muscle groups because we tend to sit a lot during the day. So again, it shortens those muscles, or I should say it elongates those muscles and it weakens them. So you want to get into a program to strengthen them, and then you can get into like jumps with rotation and stuff like that. That will help recruit those faster twitch muscle fibers.
Yeah, well said. And it's amazing. I know exactly. I've seen some of these long drive hitters, and it's just amazing how much speed they can generate. And you would think, how can they maintain balance? They're just driving through with every ounce of energy they have. But if you ever really watch them, they have incredible sequencing. I mean, they're swinging within themselves. I mean, yeah, they're swinging fast and there's a lot of power behind it, but they're still in balance. They're not falling all over the place, and they're able to generate. And obviously, they've made some adjustments with equipment to adapt to that compared to our regular amateurs. But it's just amazing when you see that explosive power, and when you transfer that energy from the top of your backswing to impact position, and it's done in such a way that it's, again, done in a sequence, in a proper sequence, from a good posture and all of these important things that we were talking about. I mean, it's no wonder these guys are hitting at 450, 460, plus yards. Some of them probably even more than that by now. And it just amazes me when I see it. And what's interesting even more so is a lot of these guys are good golfers in general. It's not just all about power. I know some power hitters that can go out and can beat most scratch players, without even thinking about it. Scratch handicap players. So, I mean, it's not just all about power for them. They know how to finesse the ball as well.
There's a lot to be said about the kinetic chain, but what you talk about, the sequence, the pattern of movement that the body should go through when swinging a golf club, and it's applicable to pretty much any type of sport, swinging a baseball bat, tennis racket, and stuff like that. And it starts from the ground up again, with the ground reaction forces. It starts with the hips, the trunk, the arms, and then the club in that particular order. So that is another thing that you can do working with a golf professional, to be analyzed, and see whether or not your golf swing is sequentially correct, or whether or not you may be out of whack, maybe using your upper body to initiate the downswing, versus your legs versus your hips and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well said. Well, this question I've got for you, Bob, is not going to be, I'm sure, very popular for a lot of the club manufacturers out there, but it needs to be said. So for you listeners out there, this is equipment versus body. So if a golfer has, let's say, $600 to spend to get those 10 extra yards, why should they invest that in fitness assessment, as you just touched on, and fixing their body rather than buying the latest driver?
Well, I use the analogy that if you buy a used car that doesn't run too well, and you go out and you spend big bucks on 4 brand new tires, thinking that it's going to make the car run better, it's not. It may a little bit, but it's not.
Right.
It's not until you address the mechanism that's propelling that car, the engine, that you kind of pay attention to that and fix that up, that you're going to get better mileage out of that car. Same thing with the golf swing. I mean, the equipment has gotten better. I mean, no doubt.
No doubt.
And they're still working on it, still improving it, the clubs, the golf balls, and so on and so forth. But, the mechanism that's swinging all that stuff, being the golfer's body, if it's not addressed, you're going to hit that little more expensive golf ball a little further into the woods. But it will help to a degree, but
Sure.
You got to focus on the mechanism that's swinging that stuff, and that's your body.
Well, and especially as we've talked about in the past with a lot of our mature golfers, as we age, we lose muscle mass, we lose flexibility, and you can work on some things to help maintain it or even improve it a little bit, but it's just a natural progression as we age that certain things are not going to be like they were when we were in our 20s. But the more you can do to prolong that and to prevent some things from happening, is going to increase your enjoyment. And I think a lot of senior or more mature golfers had done for a long time, and I think they finally smartened up. We'll see if the next generation does the same. Is they started to recognize, hey, I need to do some work on me. I can't just buy my game with some golf clubs. I need to actually work on me. And some instruction, obviously, some good solid instruction with a certified teacher professional is key, but also with a golf fitness instructor, a certified fitness instructor is key as well. And that's why you've touched on many times on the shows about the importance of having a fitness assessment done, because let's find out where you are. Let's see where the areas that need the most improvement, and then let's put a game plan together on how we can achieve the goals that you're looking to achieve. And I think that's pretty much what you're wanting to accomplish.
Definitely. And I mean, the collaboration between the two, between the golf fitness professional and the teaching professional, I I mean, if the teaching professional is trying to get you to do something that you physically cannot do, that's not good, because what's going to happen is you might get hurt. There might be some sort of compensation going on, which may kind of further enhance the deficiencies, the muscular deficiencies that you have. So if you can work with both and have them collaborate with each other, talk to each other, to say, I've done that a lot with teaching professionals, saying, okay, here's John Smith, and here's the areas he's deficient in. And right now, he's not going to be able to make that good shoulder turn because he's got really, tight, a lot of tightness in the mid back. His range of motion in his shoulder is terrible. So we're going to work on that, give him some time, and then eventually you can reintroduce those drills or whatever it is that you teach to get him to get into those better hitting positions.
And that's where, as a teach professional, I know that some have started becoming TPI certified themselves to be able to have some knowledge about that. I still think it's good to have an outside perspective, because I think sometimes as the teaching professional, again, I'm not knocking it. I think it's okay to have that expertise as well. But I think sometimes to have another set of eyes. But what's really good is they quite often will film or record the golf swing, or certainly take pictures of the swing, which is a great caveat for the fitness professional, because he can look at it and say, okay, yeah, they got a C posture, or yeah, I see that they're not flexible in this area. So having that visual cue for you helps you to, obviously a proper assessment still is needed, but you're right, that partnership together, there's a lot of synergies that can come out of that. And you're able to guide the instructor as well to say, here's some things I've noticed during the assessment. Here's some things that need to be worked on. I'm going to give them some drills or some things to do here to help, make them more flexible, make them, adjust things here and there that allow you, as you pointed out, to work on those drills and to work on the fundamentals that are going to get them to making better ball contact. And once they're able to do that, then they're going to start to see more distance come out of it. And again, as you suggest, I'm not knocking equipment. There's a time and a place to upgrade and get, some new equipment, maybe as a reward. But there's some hard work that has to go on behind the scenes, and you can't just go out and buy it. I've seen too many people do that, spending a lot of money on equipment, and end up, it's being sold on eBay, a couple years down the road, because they're not playing golf anymore because they're frustrated. So, but some great points. I think you've thrown us a few nuggets tonight to talk about distance. Any final thoughts? And then let the folks know if they want to reach out. I know you've got a great website with more information on golf fitness that you want to lead them through, and also maybe a little bit about plug about your book.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point too about contact. If golfers, I think, focused a little bit more on contact, the distance will come. And even when you kind of get onto the driving range, I've read in several articles that the last 10 balls in your bucket, just kind of grip it and rip it, recruit those faster twitch muscle fibers. Now, again, you don't want to go really nuts with it because you don't want to get hurt. But, pick up your swing speed a little bit and try to really muscle the ball down the driving range, because, again, that'll help you get those faster twitch muscle fibers. Yeah, a lot of stuff on the website, Golf Fit Carolina. There's a book there, and I am going around also. And if any private club or organization would like to do a golf fitness clinic, I do travel around and offer those as well, and they're very well received. We do like a mini assessment on the participants, so they walk away with a report card in hand with their deficiencies that they need to work on, and several exercises that they can start doing to help to start to correct those deficiencies. But yeah, it's always a pleasure talking with you, Ted, and look forward to the next session.
If mental clutter and inconsistency have been sabotaging your performance, rhythm and tempo phrases could be your breakthrough. These powerful phrases tap into your brain's natural rhythm-motion connection, syncing your swing to tour-level precision. Think of it like your body's instinct to move with the beat. This is scientifically known as sonification. With Audio Golf, we harness sonification to align your swing perfectly with the right rhythm and tempo, elevating every part of your game, from drives to putts. Let's talk about Pat, an aspiring pro. In just one 30-minute session, his leg putting accuracy shot through the roof. It might sound too good to be true, but you can experience it for yourself. Click the link and get access to the free lesson, 15-foot putts in 10 minutes with rhythm and tempo control.
I appreciate it. In a couple of weeks, we'll have you back and we'll talk about another topic to get people in ship shape. So again, some great insights from our good certified golf fitness professional, Bob Foreman. Coming up next, we're moving to the equipment side of the game and with a man who helped build some of the biggest putter brands in history. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Golf Talk Live. I'm very excited to have tonight's featured guest, Vikash Sanyal. He's the managing director at Chamber Putters. He continues to his legacy of equipment innovation with the launch of the laser-aligned Chamber Justice Mallet. He's a graduate of UC San Diego and CSU San Marcos. His career is anchored by his role as a co-founder of Odyssey Golf and CEO of Never Compromise. His executive experience includes founding Brainstorm Golf, Happy Putter. So please welcome my very special guest, Vikash Sanyal. Vikash, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for that introduction.
So let me ask you, first off, I always like to do this with a guest that I've never had on before the show to just talk about golf in general. What was it about the game? Did you play golf at an early age? Was it something that you got introduced to, or was it something, your appreciation, your enjoyment of the game come a little bit later on in life for you?
You know, my story is very unique in that it was just meant to be, because I was actually not a golfer growing up. I was a pretty good football player and a pretty good baseball player. And I had some friends who were on the college golf team, and they told me, you know, you need to find a sport to play after, you know, you graduate. And it just kind of came together like it was supposed to happen. I was I was actually getting ready to graduate from college, and I was trying to figure out what my next step was going to be. And I got a call from my dad and said, "We'll figure out, you know, what you want to do, and you know, if you want to go get your MBA, you know, I'll help you with that." And I ended up going down to the UCSD job board, where there was a listing for Odyssey Golf. And
Wow.
I went in and I didn't know what to expect, but my thought was, well, hey, you know, I'll go, you know, make some clubs or do whatever and, you know, just have some fun while I'm going to get my MBA. But I went into the office. It was basically Michael Magerman and Jim Flood, who was the founder of Aldala and invented the graphite shaft. And a half an hour meeting about a production job or interview about a production job turned into like a 3 hour session where we just kind of hit it off. And
Wow.
what Michael told me was, he said, look, he said, you can't get your MBA right now, but at some point in the future, I'll pay for it. And I want you to be our first employee, like our first sales and marketing person. And so now this is before Odyssey Putters. We were actually at that time, we were marketing an Odyssey driver. It was made out of the same material, the ceramic material. And we were actually going to make a putter. I'm not sure if you remember, there was a company called Founders Club that was formed by Gary Adams, the original founder of TaylorMade. And we were going to make putters for them in a licensing deal. And we were going to try to promote the drivers. And so I came on and I agreed to work for $200 a week. And I was working, I was probably working 100 hours a week because we were doing weekends as well, demo days all day. That's probably an exaggeration, but I was working a lot of hours and not getting paid because the company didn't have any money. And so, but I was in a position in my life where I could do it. And it was the greatest decision I ever made because I basically had to do everything in Odyssey in the beginning. So if you name who was the first person to do this at Odyssey, there's a good chance it was me because I was the guinea pig. So I was the first tour rep. I was the first sales rep. I was the first telemarketer. I did collections. I did shipping. I did, you know, we literally had a night where we built 1,000 putters together as a team because we had to get an order to Japan. And so it was really baptism by fire, but such a great memory. And the golf industry is a really kind industry. One of the things I'm most proud of, Michael was a great mentor, but and as was Mr. Flood. But I think I probably had arguably, or I think inarguably, the two greatest mentors you could have in the golf industry, which was Ely Callaway, who started Callaway Golf, and Gary Adams, who started TaylorMade Golf. And so they really took me under their wings. I was a 23-year-old kid and totally didn't know what I was doing, but they formed almost all of my product development philosophies, all my marketing philosophies, all my corporate culture philosophies. And so, if I have been blessed with success, a lot of it has been because of the people who taught me all these incredible lessons.
That's a really, I got to be honest, that's a great story because, usually most of the people that I have on the show have, come up through golf some other way. Maybe they played and made their way through collegiate golf. Some went on to play professional golf. Some went on to the teaching side of things. Others invented products and things like that. But what's uniquely interesting about your story is that somebody saw something in you very early on to the point they said, we want you, and which is very unheard of, we want you to stop your education for the moment because we've got something for you to do. But I want you to know that I'm going to pay for your education at a later point when it's appropriate. And so I'm assuming obviously he did that at some point.
Yeah, Michael did. He was like a big brother to me, and yeah, he absolutely paid for my MBA, or Odyssey paid for my MBA, and I don't know if he saw potential or if I was the only sucker who was willing to work for $200 and work 6-7 days a week and not get paid for quite a while. But whatever, why it happened, who knows? But it happened, and it's certainly been a blessing.
Would you say, in addition, obviously, to your collegiate education, would you say that the education that Mike and others have given you would be on par with that education, meaning that what you learned working through Odyssey and other opportunities before you're doing what you do now, would you say that what you learned, not so much about the golf business, but just how to really apply yourself in such a way that you obviously were an asset to them, whether it was for $200 or for nothing, working nights, weekends, what have you, there was a great learning opportunity, as you pointed out. Do you feel that was on par or maybe even above par?
I think it was on Eagle. I think it was better because learning in the classroom is great, but there's nothing like actually doing it. And again, the golf industry is a really kind industry. And so when I was out working, and besides Michael and Mr. Flood, there was great people like Brad Adams, who's like my brother in the golf industry. He taught me, I think he's just brilliant in how he looks at things. And Brian Pond was our product development engineer, lead, and designer. And Michael Brower was incredible from operations. So I was just really blessed to be surrounded by a bunch of people who were not only smart and talented, but also really willing to help, because I was, I felt like I did have potential, but I was just willing to do whatever it took to succeed. And I actually think one benefit from not coming through maybe the blue bloodline to the golf industry was that I didn't have any preconceived notions about the way things should be done. And so I just tried to innovate in terms of how do you work with the press, and I literally remember working with, people from the press, like, from Golf Digest and, great legends of the game who are writers. And Michael told me, like, you need to get press for us, but I didn't know what to do. So I would literally call the editor of Golf Digest and be like, I'm 23. I've never done this before. They asked me what to, to do this. Can you tell me what I'm supposed to do? And people like Guy Yoakum and Mark Godich and Steve Donahue and Tim Murphy and, all these incredible writers, they'd be like, well, you need to write a press release. I'll send you an example. This is what it looks like. So many people like helped me get to a point of success because they could have all just been mean and told me, oh, figure it out yourself. But they didn't. They all helped, and they helped me figure it out. And even on tour, I went out I was the first Odyssey tour rep, and I was shy because I was this kid and I wasn't a great golfer at that point. And and I was going to the senior tour first. And now the senior tour is really, they were happy because they never really expected the senior tour at that point. We're
Yeah.
talking the early 1990s.
Sure.
And they were making more money on the champions, or at that point, the senior tour,
Yeah.
than they did their entire careers. And I'm talking about Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, like Lee Trevino, like the greatest players of all time, made more in one season on the senior tour than they did in their entire careers, because the purses were so different. And I remember not even being, sitting on the side of the green, not wanting to disturb them. And people like Gary Player telling me like, "Hey kid, pick up your putter, let's putt," or George Archer, great old player, And
Yeah.
so they taught me how to, Gary Player and George Archer taught me how to putt. I mean, they were the ones who said, "Here's what you need to focus on and this and that." And we actually did really well. I mean, Odyssey, came out of the gates, everybody thinks it was an overnight success. It was far from it. It took us about 4 years to really get going. But when we got going, it got going. And we went from, a startup to I think when I left, we were just over 50% market share. And that's when I left and started Never Compromise, which kind of exploded as well. And, went to number 3 in market share in just under 2 years. And so, when you work with incredible people who are willing to teach you, it really can help.
Do you see the irony? Here you are, a young lad at the time, coming up to some of the best players in the business, basically promoting a golf brand, Odyssey putters, and not really knowing how to putt very well yourself. There's a little bit of an irony, so it's kind of an interesting story. And I know these guys. I've interviewed Gary Player before on my show, and I haven't, of course, George Archer, but I know of him very well. And these guys are very giving, very professional, and they want to help any way that they can. So there's kind of an interesting irony there, because here you are, you're coming out and saying, "Hey, we've got this," but you're not really very proficient quite yet. But yet they stepped up and said, "Okay, we're going to take this guy under our wings and we're going to teach him how to putt." So that had to give you a lot of confidence as you progressed through your earlier stages of the putting career.
It did. And putting is an interesting thing, because even if you're not like hitting a driver, hitting an iron, there's a lot more room for error. For putting, the mechanics between a normal handicap and a professional tour player, they're the same, and to a certain extent, tour players are more consistent. They have better feel, but I was Brad Adams is an incredible player, and Brad taught me a lot Brad is Gary Adams' son, and so Brad wanted me to be a good player. So often when we were at Odyssey, he would we would work a full day, and then his dad was a member at La Costa Country Club, and so we would go play like 7 or 8 holes. And I tell this to everybody. So I was a pretty good athlete, and so the best way to learn is to play 4 or 5 times a week for like an hour, like an hour and a half, because you develop consistency. You don't get any kind of like muscle exhaustion or any kind of that, and you just get better. So Brad had me shooting in the high 70s, within like a year, and so, which was pretty good. And
Oh yeah.
He just gave me a really good baseline. And then, so when I was with, Mr. Archer and Mr. Player, it wasn't like I had no idea.
Sure.
They just kind of gave me nuances of how to be better and what to look for. And they gave me insight into actually their minds, which I really loved. And that's something that we've always kind of depended on, because if you look at Odyssey, you look at Never Compromise, now you look at the chamber putter, they're all really being built upon tour player feedback. All the products at at Odyssey and Never Compromise were really based on great tour players telling us what they wanted. The chamber is no different, because I think you did so much great research. Thank you for doing that. But the chamber is a really interesting company, because we have 6 LPGA Hall of Famers who are not spokespeople but actually investors in the company. So
Right.
Beth Daniel, Meg Mallon, Kari Webb, Julie Inkster, Laura Davies, Judy Rankin. I mean, those are 6 of the greatest players and greatest putters ever. And so they really played a key role in guiding our product development, helping us understand what we can do to help golfers the most.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually have other tour players who invested in the company, but I can't say their names because they have associations with other club companies, so they need to be anonymous. But any great company in the golf industry is reliant upon tour players to help them get there, and the chamber is no different.
Yeah, well said. I want to ask you one other question, more personal related, before we get into our discussion about chamber. What would you say, and it can be either or, it can be from the business side or it can be from the tour side, meaning what we've been talking about with what would you say would be the one best tip you've gotten thus far in your career? What would be, what it could be business wise, it could be about your golf game, whatever. What was the one tip that stands out to you as the best tip that you've ever received?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a cliche, but Mr. Callaway, he sat down with me one time and he said, son, he said, your biggest strength is also your biggest weakness. And I said, what is it? And he said, you're always thinking about tomorrow. He said, which gives you the great ability to predict where the market's going before other people get there. And if you look at my career, I do take pride in that I don't think have launched a product that people say, I've seen that before. Like for us, it's always, wow, that's so different. That's so unique. And that is a lesson that both Mr. Callaway and Mr. Adams taught me. They said, if you're going to be a new company, you can't be similar or a little better than the existing market leaders, because it's not enough. They said, if you're going to convince somebody to change product, you have to have something, and every Callaway employee will know what I'm going to say, demonstrably better, right? Visually pleasing and demonstrably better, Mr. Callawayism. And so it's always made me set the bar super high for product development. And in my career, I always got a lot of credit for being a pretty creative marketing person, but I would always tell people I'm not that great at marketing. I'm not a great marketing guy. I'm a very insecure marketing guy. And what I mean by that is, if you give me the same product as somebody else, the same technology, same benefits, I don't think I'm smart enough or clever enough to just out market them. What I'm really good at is, if you give me a product that is better than anybody else, that nobody else has, and that nobody else can copy, I can actually market that. And so I really try to put a lot of emphasis on product development, because if you have something that again, golfers look at and they're like, this is really going to help me, and I can't get it anywhere else, then you got a chance to win. And that's what happened at Odyssey. That's what happened at Never Compromise. And hopefully that will be what happens with the chamber putter as well.
Well, I have no doubt that that's going to happen. And I think you're exactly right. You hit it right on the head. I think when you look at, whether it be technology, in any business, not even just golf, but any business, and that people are looking, things are changing. The pace is moving at such a huge momentum right now, that if you just come with something that's slightly better or very similar to everybody else's, there's really no incentive for somebody to make that change or to even invest even time looking at what it is that you have to. But if you come out with something that's like, wow, I've never seen that before. And that's where you see some of these exotic cars come out. It's not just because they're more expensive, but people look at, and I remember when Lamborghini first was out years ago. I mean, it's like, wow, and Ferrari and all. That's why, because they had that wow factor. And it's the same thing in golf when they started changing over to titanium, and everybody was all, persimmon for decades, even some of the best players in the world. Now all of a sudden you're coming out with a metal head, and you're coming out with this and graphite shaft. Nobody wanted to use that when they first came out, but it was something uniquely different. So I understand exactly what you're saying. So I want to ask you first off to talk about what an A-lock laser is, for those that don't know what that is. That's something new, obviously. And you've done a lot of research, and you show that less than 1% of golfers actually aim correctly when they're putting. So when a golfer attaches this laser, I want you to tell it what it is first, for the very first time. What is the most common reaction when they see where they're actually aiming as opposed to where they thought they were aiming?
Yeah, complete shock. I can't believe I'm that far off. It's actually a funny reaction. And so, the A-lock is actually the name of the system. It's like the umbrella. And so it actually is something that I developed over my entire career in little pieces. So I mentioned when I was early Odyssey and a tour rep, we used to see tour players are just a strange bunch. They all have different desires, and they all want what they want. And so we used to spend a lot of time milling custom sight lines for different players, and we could tell that it made an impact. And so to try to make things more efficient over the years, I developed this system to where I would get a player, a tour player usually, well, in this case, always a tour player, and say, okay, line up toward target. And then they line up towards it. And I would actually get down on my hands and knees and I would put a T on the face of their putter. And then we'd back up and see where they were lined up. And this way they knew that I wasn't lying to them. It was just, I was like, no, this is exactly what you see. And they would be shocked because over my career, I've tested thousands of consumers, hundreds of tour players, and dozens of major champions. I've only had 3 players line up accurately, including all those tour players from the
I can
start.
believe it. Yeah.
And so everybody's surprised, to your point. Now, um, as this kind of system evolved, we started doing this test more and more because we figured out, and actually it never compromised. We had one of our investors who was an optics researcher, and we would talk about this stuff. And she told me, she said, no, you're onto something. She said, eyes are kind of like fingerprints. Everybody's different. And she said, it's absolutely true that people have natural visual tendencies. So some people will be able to see black and white better. Some people will see color better. Some people will see lines better. Some people will see shapes better. And she basically said, like, if you could figure out a way to do that and tell golfers what they see, you would really help them. And so that was kind of what I did, for all those years with getting down and putting the T on the face. And it was funny because actually a few years ago, I was with Beth Daniel, Meg Mallon, and Kari Webb at the CME Championship. And we had an original chamber prototype, and I was still doing that test. And Beth and Meg at dinner that night, they told me, if you could figure out a way to get that test so people could self-administer it, you would change the golf industry because nobody lines up accurately.
Right.
And so for the last 2.5 years, we've been developing the A-Lock system. And basically, it's a laser that goes on the back of the putter. And, people think, oh, lasers, lasers aren't new, but the way that our laser works is new because it's so simple. Like currently, a lot of lasers, they attach to the shaft, or if they do go to the head, they're kind of cumbersome. They're not very consistent with the attachment.
Mm-hmm.
Ours fits like a Lego piece. It goes in the back cavity with a magnet. It just sticks beautifully. So you could literally put your laser on in 3 seconds. Right. And it has 2 modes. It has an assessment mode and it has a practice mode. So what the assessment mode does is it's an intermittent laser that basically it shoots on after about, I think, 10 seconds. So you line up towards a target with one of the guides, and then it tells you what you see. And it is a system. So the first step is you try an all red guide and you try an all white guide, and you will line up one of those better. And that'll tell you that you will line up one of those better. And basically what that will tell you is whether you see color better or black and white. Then after you figure that out, so let's say you see the color better. Well, then the next step is, do you see lines better or do you see shapes better? So then we would have you test a red triangle or a red line, and you're going to line up one of those better. And then your color shape or your black and white line. Now, once you know that information, your eyes work with your putter, not against your putter, right? And the laser never lies. Like the laser tells you the truth.
Right.
And I think that's really a cool thing about our product. But what I really love the most about our product is the practice mode, because basically what you can do, once you figure out your natural visual tendency, the practice mode is the laser on continuously. So you warm up with it, and it teaches you what your putter looks like when it's lined up accurately. And so when you go onto the golf course and you take off the laser, because you can't use the laser when you're playing, right. You remember what your putter looks like when it's lined up accurately, and it gives you so much confidence. And I often say that the worst enemy for putting is your brain. And if you think about it, most people, when they're putting poorly, they got a million thoughts going through their head. But when they're putting well, it's very simple. So we're trying to simplify the mind by removing doubt. And if you know that you're lined up accurately, you really only need to focus on one thing, which is speed. And if you're only thinking about how hard do I hit the putt because you know you're lined up accurately, you're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, you're definitely going to improve. And really what you just said is huge, because you're exactly right. And it obviously spills over into ball striking, things like that as well. And other than just with your putter, not having so many swing thoughts and things like that in your head, if you can focus on. And you touched on something that's really interesting in your explanation. And you talked about how everybody sees something different and how they react to something different. And it's the same as in teaching the game. I'm a golf instructor and I have been for 30 something years. And what I've always found is I'm a visual person. So I need to see what it is, that's how I learn visually. Then you have others that, you can just explain to them, you can tell them, and they can do it over the phone, and I know exactly what you're talking about. So, once you identify how that person visualize using the different options that you have with the laser, then it becomes second nature. Now they know exactly what to look for. They know how it lines up. And then again, it's not so much of a muscle memory as it is a visual memory for them from that point on. And it's just a matter of, you said, with the speed. And that's huge because it removes and eliminates a lot of factors that typically people would have. I mean, we get that and again, in regular instruction with ball striking, that they've got 20 different thoughts going through their heads. And, you can just tell, when they're standing over the ball, it's, like, Bob, what are you thinking about? Well, you know what I'm saying? So,
I can tell you're a great teacher, because what you're saying is absolutely right. Because what happens is that subconsciously people know they're not lined up accurately. And so it sounds silly, but your brain almost tells your body, I want you to miss it less. So that's why people decelerate, because they know they're not lined up accurately. So they slow down, or they steer the putt to try to get it back online or push it. And so, great putting, and this as an instructor, it's really about two things. There's the mechanical aspect of it, having a great, high MOI putter, making a good stroke, but there's also the visual side of it. And right now, most of the putters that are out there are focusing on the mechanical side. And we've had to do that too, kind of going back to what Mr. Callaway and Mr. Adams taught me. Our putter is a great putter. Like, if you look at our putter, so it has tungsten weights on the bottom, like many putters do. But if you look at tungsten weights in, I don't want to say names, but they're all great putters. Lab are great putters. Scotty's great putter. Odyssey's great putters. Those are all tremendous putters. But if you look at the tungsten weights on the bottom of those putters, TaylorMade, they're all about 20 to 30 grams in weight. So the tungsten grams on the bottom of our putter are over 90 grams a piece. Wow. And so we really have a tremendous MOI on our product, and it was proven on our robotic testing. We did very well in the testing, but it's not enough. We're a new company. If we were just a little bit better from MOI, nobody cares. But if we can own the visual aspect of it and tell people, like, 1% of people line up accurately, if you're not one of that 1%, we can help you line up better. That's impactful. And, and it really is the foundation of good putting, because you could have the best putter in the world, you could have the best stroke in the world, but if you're not lined up properly, the putt's not going in. And so if with our putter, we're hoping we get people to line up accurately more often, and then they can apply the good stroke with a really good forgiving putter, and they're going to make more putts. And that's the goal.
So let me ask you, I want to back up just for a second, because you mentioned about the weight. So you're saying you've got 90 grams as opposed to typically 20 in a lot of the other competitors.
20 to 30.
Yeah. So, I mean, people, that's a big difference. I mean, when you think about grams, okay, the grams is nothing. But when you think about the weight of the club head compared to one that's got 20 to 30, that's a big difference. That's basically 3 times as much. What has been some of the feedback from customers or from those that have tested the product out when they feel that difference? Because that's a very noticeable difference. What has been some of the feedback from it?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. So the overall weight of our putter head is the same as these other putters, because the difference is a lot of these other putters, their base material is stainless steel.
Okay.
303 stainless for a lot of them, and ours is aluminum, and so aluminum is a lot less density, and so our head weight is about 365 grams, and so it's right, and it's not a heavier putter at all.
Gotcha.
It's just the weight is distributed a bit differently. And one of the things we challenge people when they get the chamber putter is we said, you can hit it anywhere on the face. It doesn't matter. It's going to roll out the same distance. And it might sound a little different, which is good, because you want to know when you mishit it. Sure. But in terms of performance, the dispersion pattern is going to be tight, because the putter's got so much weight on the heel and toe. It's very forgiving. And so, it's funny. It's almost like I don't want to overstate it, but it's a really interesting product, because it's got really high MOI. It's got this alignment thing, but the best technologies, you never even understand like how good they are until consumers and tour players
Oh yeah.
help you learn more about it. So
Feedback's
we
huge.
didn't, yeah, and we didn't even realize this, but our putter actually helps you read greens. Now, you might be like, "What are you talking about?" Right now, so we had a tour player. We had a tour player call us, and she was like, "Do you know your putter helps read greens?" I was like, "No. What do you mean?" So she was playing a practice round, and obviously tour players can do practice rounds, but every golfer can do this because the laser pops on pretty quick. So she was on a hole and she couldn't figure out the break. And so she put it on the practice mode, which is continuous, and it shoots out straight. So basically, she lined up and she thought it was about 12 inches left of the hole. She The laser was on, so she confirmed that she was exactly 12 inches left of the hole. She did a little forward press, so the dot showed up on the grass. She hit the putt, and it broke more than that. So she actually went out to like 18 inches and did the same thing, same process, hit another putt, and it was too much break. So then she's like, okay, 12 inches is not enough. 18 is too much. So she went in between, and it was center cup. Now,
Wow.
how many times do golfers ask themselves, did I misread that or was I misaligned? You never have to ask that question again. Now, look, you can't do that in the tournament, but
Right.
if you're playing with your buddies and they don't care, it's not uncommon to drop another ball after you hit one. You got to be conscious of pace of play and all those type
Of
of things.
course.
But I'll play now. I'll keep the laser in my pocket. I'll I'll put it on, and I'll just, you know, I'll figure it out. So the next time I have that putt, I'll know I'm like, that's exactly where I need to hit it. And again, it removes doubt and it just gives you confidence. And if you're a confident putter, you're much better than if you're an unconfident putter. That's just, it's so logical, but it's true.
Well, as well as I do, because you've been around the game long enough to know that if you're not very proficient as a putter, you're losing a lot of strokes. I mean, at least 50% of your strokes in a round are on the green.
Mm,
And if you're not, if you're three putting everything, forget about it. You're not,
yeah.
you're buying lunch when you go into the clubhouse with your buddies. And if in a tournament, you're not going to last very long out on tour as that. I want to ask you something, and this is kind of interesting because you said something earlier about how even the tour players were kind of shocked. So you mentioned a number of names, but Kari and Julie as being investors into that.
Laura Davies and Judy Rankin.
Okay. So when these investors come in, obviously they want to see, what's going on. They want to sort of put you through the metal as it were. When they first got sort of set up to test this out themselves, were they shocked to see how offline they were? I mean, you got some pretty big champions there that have made some incredible putts and won some, phenomenal tournaments over the years. Were they kind of shocked to see how far off they were?
Shocked and dismayed that they didn't have the technology back when they were playing. Like they are such a funny group because they're so honest and they're just, I love them, and they're super smart in terms of product
Right.
development. But also the other thing that was really crazy was for many of them, what they thought they would like the best, they didn't like the best. And so like I love like Meg Mallon, she's like, I can't believe I think she's color shape. I have to go back and look at my notes, but she thought she'd be black and white lines, but she ended
Right.
up being something completely different. And that's something that's important for consumers too, is that golfers often think, well, that fits my eye the best. I like the way that looks, but
Right.
that is not what you want. What you want is what you line up the best.
Sure.
And so, getting back to your first question about the A-Log system, it comes with two lasers, an indoor laser and an outdoor laser. It comes with a backdrop, that you need, and it comes with 10 alignment guides. And basically, it allows you to figure out, like, the one thing we can say with full confidence is that every golfer will line up one of these guides better than the other. And then if you practice with it, it really just becomes such a huge factor in your future alignment because you just get so much confidence. And so we're not really saying anything that's outlandish. We're saying you will see one of these guys better. We will tell you which one you see with the laser. As I said, the laser doesn't lie. And so if the laser tells you what you see the best, then accept it and work with it, and just kind of make that part of your game. And it's fun. It was actually interesting. I was on an East Coast trip right now working, and this has happened a few times, but we had a good player ask me the question, am I actually figuring out my natural visual tendencies, or am I just adjusting because and learning from prior information, because he started out about 2 cups right, and then
Right.
we had him dialed in to where he was lining up pretty much perfectly every time. And I said, well, the best way to test that is, I said, let's go back and try one of the guides that you tested earlier that you weren't lined up properly. And so we put in one of the original guides, and he went right back to being 2 cups to the right. And so he was like, wow, that's crazy. And so it really is something that what you have as your alignment guide, it absolutely matters.
I want to ask you as we get ready to wrap things up, because I find it extremely fascinating what you have developed here. Because again, when I think back, people have changed putters, different, from mallets to blades to this and that over the years. Tour players, have probably rotated 100 putters over their careers at least. And, nobody has really found something that shows them what it is they're doing incorrectly.
Yeah.
And this is something. So my question for you is, without giving out too many secrets, where do you go from here? Because you've kind of solved a major problem in golf. How do you is it possible to even improve upon that?
You think so? I mean, we you never, if you respect the game from a golf equipment standpoint, you're never stopping trying to figure out how to do it better, right? So for us, I think the next steps is, how do we make the process even simpler? We've tried to make it pretty simple.
Sure.
You see red or white, line or shape. It's pretty good, but there are some steps to it. So, for your listeners who want to try it, they have to invest some time to really benefit from the technology. So I think simplification is going to be a big thing. We also want to understand, like, are there new guides we don't have yet, that we could that are actually really good. And so we're going to work with tour players to try to get that developed. And shapes matter too. We're going to be developing our own products, to other mallets and other blades that we think will be more accommodating. Right now, we just have the mallet available,
Right.
but we'll evolve that way. But there's always room for innovation. It's like, what do they say? Like, didn't the patent office say, like, we need to close the patent office. Everything's already been invented, right? But
Right.
that was like in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
And so there's always room for innovation, and we're going to keep pushing the envelope. And it's really important to us to not come out with the same old thing. Like, that's one of the things that I absolutely am confident in. We're new. Our product's been out there for a month, maybe 2, but everybody who sees a product, they always agree they've never seen anything like this before. And that's really encouraging.
Well, if you're getting the response that you're getting from tour players, I mean, and I'm going to be completely honest when I say this about tour players, they're always eager to try something, and that they're always, well, yeah, sure, let me try it. Or, they'll endorse something and so forth. But to get them to pry some of their investment into a product is not an easy beast to do. Even the most successful ones, it's not easy to do. So that says a lot in these early stages for Chamber. If you've got some heavy hitters like you have coming in at a very early stage and saying, we want to, be investors. We're not just endorsing the product. We actually want to have a vested interest in this product. That says a lot that they recognize what it is that you're bringing to the table. And obviously your past experience, and that I'm sure many of them knew who you were, or certainly heard about who you were, if they didn't already. And that certainly bodes well in that process. But it says a lot about the product for somebody to take that step, because we're always very protective. I've worked hard for this. I've got a little nest egg over here. I don't know if I want to take a chance over here. So for them to pry the purse open, as it were, that says a lot about what you guys have got going on over at Chambers.
Yeah, and it also says a lot about them.
Sure, of course.
They're bold, they're smart, they want to make a difference. And I also want to give them credit. This technology was not developed before, and then they came on board. They actually helped develop this technology. Right. And it really was, I think, because of the team. I'm been blessed to have a nice run in the golf industry, but we also have, Joe Barrow, who I think you might know is the former CEO of the First Tee and one of the early people with Izzo. And then Ty Vota is was a former LPGA commissioner, and he also was the head of PGA Tour communication. So they're really smart, and they're two of the leaders of the company, who really are help guiding this whole process. And when you have good people, it really makes it easier. And then the legends made it even more good people. And
Sure.
even our investors, like pretty much this has been investment by invite only. It's just been
Sure.
friends and friends of friends. It's been really a fun capital raise. And we're excited. I mean, we're well resourced. We have a good team. We have an innovative technology. We think we have strong intellectual property,
Right.
and we think we're doing things the right way, trying to respect the golfer and the game and the technologies. And if you try to do things the right way, then you have a better chance to succeed. So we're trying to do it the right way. And what we tell people is just give it a shot. There's nothing like this. And if you don't line up better, then return it. You can get your money back. But this is really something that everybody who's bought it to date loves it, and not just like they're passionate about it. They want to share it because it's such a cool, different thing. It's really fun to kind of get this insight, to your game.
Yeah, nothing beats having that feedback, and especially that they're feeling like they're a part of the creation behind it, and it's not just a matter of them trying something out, but actually putting their thinking caps on and saying, I think if we do this, or this could maybe help it. And you're dealing with people that are at the highest level of the game. So they know what to expect. They know what they want. They're very particular about it. They're not going to settle for anything, falling short. And the fact that you're coming with something that is so out of the, I hate to use this term, but it's true, is out of the box compared to what else is out there.
Yeah.
That's exciting. And I can understand why they would want to be a part of that. And for the rest of the average folks out there that are going to benefit from all of that, input and knowledge and experience, I think you're off the ground and running, and I'm very, very excited for you. So where can folks, if they want to get more information, is there a website that they can go and visit and learn a little bit more, and maybe even sample the product, or what do they need to do?
Yeah, so thank you. So they can just go to thechamberputter.com, and there's actually a video on the homepage that shows how the system works, and so they can get a feel for that. And our sample program is buy it. If you buy it, you don't like it, send it back. No questions, you don't have to say, there's no specific reason. If the putter doesn't help you line up better and you don't love it, then send it back and we'll give you your money back. And so it's the ultimate demo program. And so
you can't beat that for sure.
Yeah, and we're just confident in it. I mean, we've been developing this technology for years. Everybody who's had it makes such a big impact on their game. I mean, we have data, not enough for it to be statistically significant, but people save strokes because they just know what they're seeing and they're confident with their putting stroke. And if you're not decelerating, you're making better putting strokes. It really is a cool technology.
And it apparently helps read greens too.
Exactly. That is such a cool thing.
And that's one of the toughest parts, in my opinion, of playing the game with the short stick. So, well, Vikesh, I want to thank you very much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to have you as my special guest. And if you want to hang tight, I'm going to wrap up and then we'll close out the program. But I just want to say thank you for joining me this evening. And again, it's chamberputter.com is the website. And you can go and check out the video and all of the information. And as Vikesh just said, you can go and purchase it. And if you want to give it a shot and you're not happy with it, you can certainly return it and they'll refund you. So you can't get a better deal than that. But what an incredible episode. A massive thank you to some of my earlier guests, Jamie Leno-Zimron, for bringing the Ki spirit to the Coach's Corner panel, and Bob Foreman for another masterclass in golf fitness. And of course, tonight's featured guest, Vikesh Sanyal, from Chamber Putters, for giving us a look into the future of putting technology. If you missed any part of tonight's broadcast, you can find the full video version on the iGolf Sports YouTube channel, Spotify, or you can listen to the audio version on Spreaker, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join us every Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Central for more insights into the game we love. And until next time, keep it in the short grass. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coach's Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.